Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Final Destination Bloodlines, number 2 would be Thunderbolts, number 3 would be Sinners, number 4 would be Hurry Up Tomorrow, and number 5 would be a Minecraft movie. And I got so close, man. So close, I got 3 out of 5 of my predictions right. That's like kind of close. Nobody got their predictions right for this weekend because a lot of you made the same mistake that I did, which of course we're going to talk about because it's just so kind of typical at this point, I guess, for the person I guess we're going to talk about. Let's just dive on into it. Number 1 was Final Destination Bloodlines, and I kind of figured, like, you know, considering where Thunderbolts was last weekend and where Sinners was, it was like, okay, I don't think Sinners is going to pull ahead and then beat out a new release. I think Final Destination will take it because these movies had, you know, been making money. Even the 5th movie, even though it didn't do as, you know, much as the other installments, the 5th one, you know, still made a lot of money overall with the worldwide numbers, just not domestically. But I don't know, I was somehow kind of shocked, not necessarily by the domestic one, because it opened to the domestic weekend of $51 million, which is obviously pretty high. I was kind of like, oh, well, it's been a while since a Final Destination film, and, you know, the word of mouth has been really good on this one, actually, like, contrary to what the other installments kind of have, as for, if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, this one is, like, much higher. But then, like, even worldwide, it made almost, like, equal amount. It's sitting at 102 million worldwide, and at first I was like, is the numbers.com fucking with me? You know, I tried to check Box Office Mojo, it hadn't updated yet. I was like, is this correct? And I, you know, looked around a bit, and it seemed it was already kind of reported on in a I think Variety article, one of those one of those papers. So I was like, okay, I guess this is official. Yeah, it opened to like around a 50 million international opening, so combined with our 50 million domestic one, and over 100 million opening overall, and this is on a budget of 50 million. That is fucking stellar, and that's the bit that kind of shocked me. Domestically, I was like, yeah, I don't know, but worldwide, I was like, I'm really surprised by that most of all. Jesus, like the fact that they've already doubled their initial production budget in their opening weekend is astonishing. Of course, if something comes out where like, actually, it's a little lower, then, you know, disregard, I guess, but I would say still, this is highly impressive. You know, like even just looking at the domestic numbers, the fact that it made 1 mil over its initial production budget, that is huge. Crazy. Like they took so long between 5 and 6, and I don't know if it had anything to do with, you know, how domestically it didn't, you know, match up with some of the other installments, because like I said, worldwide it still made a lot of money, but still, it's like, clearly, you know, people have been waiting. the delayed kind of, you know, comeback to this franchise has really, you know, it's really serving them now. As far as the opening weekends, it is 41 million domestically, 41 million over the original film, 35 million over the second one, 33 million over 5, 32 million over 3, and 24 million over the Final Destination, which is the 4th film. It is the highest opening that this franchise has ever had, if you cannot tell. And domestically, not only has it already outgrossed the 5th one, like I mentioned, lowest grossing one domestically, by 9 million, but also the second one. It squeaked by 5 million, and it only needs 2 million now until it outgrosses the original film, the Devon Sawa one. And then worldwide, you know, it's outgrossed the second one by 12 million, and it needs 10 million until it gets to the Sawa one. Wow, you know what I mean? Like, just everything about this is really shocking, and you know what? I'm really happy for it. It helps, you know, that I did enjoy this film. I can, you know, share in the excitement over this. This is really exciting, you know what I mean? That, you know, they took a breather with the franchise, and they came back with something that people are really responding to, and now they're being rewarded with it with a good financial turnout. That's just really cool, you know? I hope that, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing more films, obviously, if they have something fresh, but that's the thing, is I don't want it to go down into the depths of where we were with the Final Destination, the 4th movie. That's the worst one. I think the movies overall, like, I don't care for the first one as much. I think it's alright. I enjoy 2, 3, and 5 quite a bit. And I also enjoyed Bloodlines just now. The 4th one is like the worst of the worst. So as long as they don't pump it out so much where they go back to like those levels of bad, I'm good. Just a really great weekend for this movie. And then going into number 2, Thunderbolts. Last weekend we talked about how it had an okay hold of like about 55% drop off. Like, okay, that's about on average. Not saying this is like a huge turnaround. It's, you know, just kind of on track, but it had like a drop off of just a little under 50%. It's actually sitting at like 49%. So it's like, okay, yeah, there is still some kind of momentum in a mild way, some word of mouth still kind of spreading on this. It made 16 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of 155 million. So it's outgrossed The Incredible Hulk by 21 million. It needs 9 million until it gets to Eternals. And then worldwide, it is sitting at $325 million. So, slight bump from last weekend. It needs 45 million until it outgrosses the first Avenger. I think more importantly for our show standards, it needs 35 million until it doubles the initial production budget, where we've been theorizing, as I've been talking about in detail for many videos. I don't need to go into it. This is probably the break-even point, or at least a good, indicator of, they're probably good, especially with like we were saying, like it had a, decent hold last weekend, just on average. And then this is pretty decent as well. So I don't know, even with like the bigger movies coming out that will probably kneecap it, I think there will still be some people returning to it. At least I hope so. At the very least, it's going to cross over the doubling point, which is a lot of people's standards for how well a movie is doing, especially one like this, which doesn't seem to be plagued with any Brave New World reshoot kind of drama, exploding the budget thing. So there you go. Number 3, obviously, is Sinners. This was very close, though. Obviously, it reopened in some IMAX theaters, because there was a huge demand for it, and IMAX tickets are more expensive. But, Thunderbolts did have a hold over it once again. Sinners made 15 million, so that adds to a domestic total of $240 million. For Ryan Coogler, it needs 213 million now until it outgrosses Wakanda Forever. Worldwide, since it is now at $316 million, it needs 543 million until Wakanda Forever. Like I've been saying, like, the only reason I point this out, even though it seems like it's never gonna, get that much money to outgross a Marvel film, still, it's like, it's just kind of cool to see it just, close the gap just little by little, like, this really is the movie that could, for real. And that's really exciting. I'm just really excited by how well it continues to do, how well it continues to hold. As far as like the horror films we were talking about last weekend, I'm just looking at what the numbers put into like a list, and then I self-inserted The Sixth Sense since it seemed like they didn't do that. Anyways, it did outgross The Exorcist domestically by 9 million. It needs 33 million until it outgrosses Jaws. Currently, it is in the top 4 highest grossing horror films ever. And then for the worldwide list, it outgrossed by just a couple 100,000 the original Conjuring film, and it is behind the first Quiet Place by 18 million. So it's at number 9, so it's in the top 10 highest grossing, horror films ever. Actually, did I add The Sixth Sense into this? It might be number 10. Still, it's in the top 10. Oh, geez, I'm a mess. I don't know. It sucks to rely on a website for useful information, and it just seems like very obviously they might be missing some stuff. Anyways, let's move on to number 4, which is a Minecraft movie, of course, making 5.8 million, adding to a domestic total of 416 million, and then worldwide it is sitting at 925 million. God, it is crazy. 75 million away from $1 billion. Like, just really take that in. $1 billion for fucking Jack Black doing fucking Minecraft memes and shit. Jesus Christ. Also, I don't know if we've pointed out before, like we keep talking about the Mario movie stats, for domestically right now. I'll just blaze through that real quick. Domestically, it needs 158 million until it gets there, and then worldwide, it needs 434 million until Mario, so it's still not the highest grossing video game film. It's still beaten by a slightly more decent film. By slightly more, I think I graded them, like, drastically differently. I don't know why I'm saying, like, Minecraft's only slightly worse than Mario. Like, no, Mario's fine. I'm fine with that movie. But it is, I don't know if we've talked about it before. My mind's always a blur after the video goes up. Have we mentioned that both of these are Jack Black movies, that he's in both of them? Like, it's just Jack Black in a competition with himself at this point as far as like best video game, grosser. You know what I mean? It's crazy. For domestic numbers, as far as the all-time list, it has outgrossed Multiverse of Madness by 5 million, Wonder Woman by 4 million, Revenge of the Sith by 2 million, and obviously that went up a little bit more because of the recent re-release. And it outgrossed Toy Story 3 and Jurassic Park by 1 million. It is now sitting behind Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom by 1 million. So it's number 40 for highest grossing domestic runs ever. Also, I don't know if we've ever talked about this in a box office talk as far as like any Jurassic movies whenever they're mentioned. Have we ever talked about how close Jurassic Park and Fallen Kingdom are? That just slipped my mind until I like just saw this. Like, really? Just by that much? Crazy. Obviously, Park, it's probably, unadjusted for inflation. They just keep like whatever the base number was whenever it came out. But still, that is kind of wild, isn't it? And then worldwide, for 2025, it is 1.044 billion away from Naja 2. Probably not going to outgross that, obviously, but it's almost at just not a billion away. And then it needs, for the all-time worldwide list, it has outgrossed Two Towers by 4 million. It needs just 1 million until it outgrosses Half-Blood Prince. Right now, it is number 74. So, domestically, far more impressive ranking, but it's still inching along, once it gets that billion. Does it have momentum to get a billion? It might, yeah. We'll have to wait and see on that one. Maybe it'll stop just shy of getting a billion, but I feel like it must have the momentum, right? It's lasted this long, right? Anyways, number 5 is The Accountant 2, making 4.9 million, adding to a domestic total of 59 million. For the original film, it needs 27 million to get there. Worldwide, it is at 90 million. So at this point, they're about 10 million over the initial production budget of 80 million. As far as like our show standards, it would still need about 70 million to get to the doubling point to show that it's like a real big success. Obviously, we have talked about before, like this can change at any moment as far as like the story of how well a movie's doing, Hollywood accounting stuff. So you go by the doubling standard, but then you hear something where it's like, well, this movie didn't get even close to that, but apparently they're gonna, make ends meet somehow. There's continued, buying through like a premium video on demand or, Blu-ray sales, stuff like that. So, and whatever money they maybe make from like a streaming deal, if that plays a factor. You know what? Why am I going through this? You get what I mean. As far as like the initial theatrical run, though, I don't know if it necessarily, because worldwide it's also away from the original film by 62 million. So it's that thing of like, I just don't know how many. They waited 9 years to make an Accountant sequel. I don't know if we're going to be getting an Accountant 3 anytime soon, or at the very least, I'm not even sure if 9 years down the way from this one, if they would even consider it. It's just kind of like, well, you kind of had something back in 2016, but you didn't immediately follow up on it. So maybe, it's just been too long and not that much interest. I don't know. It's probably going to go on Prime soon anyways. Number 6, Hurry Up Tomorrow. Didn't even crack the top 5. That was the big mistake that me and all of you made. That we assumed it was going to do better than it did. I assumed just because, The Weeknd is popular, a lot of people love him, that, he would get into the top 5 at least, that he had made a movie that his fans would go see and, dissect, know everything about. It only made 3.3 million. So I don't know. I don't want to say that represents his entire fan base, but that was kind of like surprisingly shocking to me. I know, word of mouth out there is that this is an awful film. I think the Rotten Tomatoes audience score might be a little bit higher, but the critic score is like low. The cinema score was a C-. So yeah, this is also on a budget of 15 million, no worldwide numbers to bump it up. It's not looking great. As far as Trey Edward Schultz's filmography, the opening weekend, this comes in 2 million below It Comes at Night. 3 million over Waves and Krisha, but still A24's It Comes at Night has the upper hand over here as far as the opening weekends. It did outgross Krisha by 3 million and Waves by 2 million. It needs 10 million until it outgrosses It Comes at Night, but that's probably not going to happen. Obviously, if it was in the top 5, I would have said like it's not even going to be. It's going to drop off drastically. But I mean, it's in the bottom 5 of the top 10. You know what I mean? Like the fact that there's a possibility that this might dip out of the top 10 completely is like kind of shocking. Like I was just saying, I thought maybe his fandom would come through or something like that, but apparently not. Not that I blame them because I've seen the movie. I feel like I know just a little bit about The Weeknd. Like I've heard some songs and I've enjoyed them. I know just what I've heard, like what any relevant information that I have found out just because I've seen this movie. But I don't know everything about this man. And even I, didn't even like it as like a movie, as like a weird artsy movie. I didn't even like that. So it's like, yeah, I totally get that. Anyways, number 7 is Friendship, a movie I am excited about. It's expanding next weekend, so I'm very excited for that. As a big Tim Robinson fan, I'm very excited to see what people are describing as this whack job of a comedy, which is basically his show on Netflix. Go check it out. I think you should leave. Check that out. It made 1.4 million this weekend. It was in some other theaters last weekend, so that adds to a domestic total of 2.04. It's doing the, limited run and then expanding. I don't even know if it's like a totally wide one. It's only playing in like one really close to me theater next weekend. That could change obviously with scheduling, but still, like I that is pretty cool though that there is enough interest fueled in this that it managed to make it into the top 10. I'm not sure what the budget of this thing is. I'm going to assume just by how they're promoting it, it doesn't seem like they put too much as far as like locations. It seems like modern day also, unless they paid Paul Rudd a fortune. I don't know if he would ask for a fortune for a movie like this though. So maybe it's on the lower side. I'm going to assume it's on the lower lower side. Hopefully, whatever they, make in theaters is enough to, send them out on a high note, whatever. It's kind of always weird with these A24 movies, especially, as far as like how much they cost and then how much they're actually making afterwards. Because if we're just going by theatrical runs, I'm pretty, sure they don't make most of their money from, their theatrical runs, unless I'm mistaken. Either way, I'm excited to see this film, though, and I'm glad that some people have seen it this weekend and really brought it up here. Number 8 is Clown in a Cornfield, making $1.3 million, adding to a domestic total of $6.3. It does seem like this one dropped off fairly bit, but it is now 6 times its initial production budget of $1 million, which I still kind of find baffling to believe, but hey, I'm looking forward to hopefully an announcement that we'll be getting another one. Unless they don't want to do that, then that's maybe a bummer, but I think it's there, man. I think you could continue to grow this, you know what I mean? Let's keep it happening. Number 9 is Until Dawn, making $800,000, adding to a domestic total of $19 million. For F. Sandberg, it needs $38 million until it outgrows his Shazam 2. Worldwide, it is sitting at $49 million. So at this point, they have tripled their $15 million initial production budget. Obviously, it's about to dip out of the top 10. I don't think it's going to quadruple that, which would have been $60 million, but it is $85 million away from Shazam 2. Yeah, man, it is a bummer that this is, a success just as far as like the low budget standards, but also David F. Sandberg's lowest grossing film, but also, in my opinion, his worst one. So it's, man, very, very disappointing all around. We don't need to talk about it anymore, though, because I doubt it'll be here next week. And then number 10 is The Amateur. Oh boy, goodbye, Rami Malek. It made $712K, adding to a domestic total of $40 million, and then worldwide it is at $93 million. I mean, for this movie that, has this budget of $60 million, cheaper than The Accountant 2, by the way, by $20 million. The fact that, it didn't open spectacularly, but it has been, clinging on for dear life, hanging around. It almost made it to $100 million worldwide. I mean, it may not have doubled this budget, but this has got to mean something, right? Like there was something here that audiences wanted, at least initially, enough to, see it, or even now, even if it's not like booming like Sinners, like to have some people still trickling in. There's something here that audiences want, right? If only we could find out what that is and then make it good for them, to keep talking about it. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, it breaks my heart that I have to predict this. I don't know why this is the release strategy, but number 1, I think, will be Lilo and Stitch, and then number 2, I think, will be Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This is my most anticipated movie of the year thus far. Once this movie passes, it'll be like Superman or something like that, But this one, as a longtime fan of Mission Impossible, I'm really ecstatic to see what they've cooked up here, how they're going to bring it to an end. It just really sucks after last time's, box office demolition when it opened up a week before Barbenheimer, that they are once again kind of put in a situation where it's like, yeah, Final Destination did well this weekend, it's probably still going to do pretty well, this next weekend, and also Lilo and Stitch, the Disney, family remake, yeah, that one's probably going to make money. God, I just hope, and the budget, of course, I've heard is incredibly high. I hope they make enough to, to last a while. I already have it in my head because I've heard the budget is like crazy on this movie. I don't have the official number, but I feel like I've heard so many stories of them saying like it's ballooning. So I've already kind of put it past my mind of like it's probably not going to make that back in its theatrical run. But I just want it to do about like on par with the other films, maybe just a little bit better. I just want to, you know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It is the last one, at least that's what they've been saying. So, I mean, no shame if it doesn't do as well as the rest, right? But it would be great to go out on a bit of a higher note than just, yep, it went out on the lowest grossing entry yet. Long ramble, so sorry. I should save that for next weekend. Number 3, I think, will be Final Destination: Bloodlines. And then number 4, just because I have to predict, I cannot overlook this. It's an Angel Studios release. The Last Rodeo, I think, will be able to squeeze in there. I checked the Fandango, some of the Fandango showings, and it already looked like, yeah, we're filling this bitch. So once again, I think that's just their fucking pay for some dude's ticket thing. We'll see. That might be going on. It just, anytime I see an Angel Studios movie like doing well like that, it's like, well, we already know what they were running and what they kind of still were with like King of Kings recently and all that. So I just, yeah. And I think it'll be number 4. And then number 5, I think, will be Thunderbolts. Anyways, what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.